Welcome to Tunnel Vision. We're back, everybody. I'm Riley Sager alongside USCFootball.com founder Ryan Abraham and Mr. Triple Double, Connor Morrissette. How you doing, guys?
I'm great. I feel much better. USC scores the most points since like 1930. Well, I wasn't there because I was home on the couch, but hey, it's good. USC gets a big win, start the season off right. Some people are complaining about it. I'm like, wow, you win by 60 and there's complaints. Whatever. But we're getting to talk about real football. Riley's back in studio.
I'm back.
Connor's here. I'm feeling much better. Yeah, it's great.
Glad you're feeling better, Ryan. I filled in for the 3 keys, and they all hit, so maybe I'll have to do that next week. But I think you're pretty territorial about it. It sounds like you want to get back out there.
You crush it. If you want to do it, that's fine. You know,
No, it's okay.
Connor does love being on camera. So, like, you know, Chris was, you know, first part of the site, it was like slowly, like, do a podcast and, like, do a video. And he's like, live video, I don't know. And Connor's like, as soon as he walked in the door, he's like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want. Riley, same way. She's like, I'll do whatever you want. I'm like, all right, cool. You know.
Yeah, glad you're feeling better, Ryan. Also, how are you feeling about 3-0? 30 years of covering USC football. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Can you believe it?
I thought you were saying I'm 30 years old. Yeah, not
No.
quite. But yes. So if you don't know, I started USCFootball.com while I was working as an engineer because I did my undergrad and master's at USC in engineering. But 1996 is when I first created the website. It was a thing called GeoCities, which Yahoo eventually bought. But back in the day, it wasn't easy to just, there wasn't like whatever GoDaddy web builders and stuff. Yeah, like I wrote the code for the original, like all of it was code that I had wrote. And the message board was this Perl script that I had bastardized from some other thing. And you know, can I say that on this? Yeah, it's my show. I can do whatever. Yeah, I created that. It was the first interactive USC message board out there. And 97 is when I actually bought the domain name USCFootball.com. So, and people were like, how did you get it? I'm like, it was available. Like, you just like, oh, is that available? Okay. Fighton.com was not. It was already taken. And still being used by the same guy. It's like a portal for like different websites and stuff. But yes, but thank you. Yeah, this is the 30th season. And I couldn't be there for the first game, but I'll be there for the rest. But thank you, Riley. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And obviously come a long way. I'm lucky to be a part of it. And today we were breaking down USC's 73-13 win against Missouri State to open up the season at home at the Coliseum. I mean, if you didn't watch that game and you hear that score, you probably think we're lying.
Yeah, there was definitely a weird one, and we want to make this very interactive. And we're happy to be back. It was fun to be back on Thursday, but we're live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook. But you can also call in 5124 Tunnel. If you'd like to chat with us. We'd like to keep it brief. We don't have like 5-minute calls or anything. Like, you know, a minute, whatever, ask a question and bop it back and forth a little bit. We'd love to hear from you. So, and Riley's monitoring all of the chats. So if you have a question, you can just put like question. She'll start and get back to it later. But we'd love to hear from you. If you put some funny quips in there, she'll throw it up on the screen. Make fun of me, make fun of Connor. Don't make fun of Riley, but you can make fun of us. It's fine. But yeah, I'm looking for, I don't know. That was a crazy one. You were there, Connor. Like, what did you think, man? It was.
Yeah, definitely a crazy game. I think in terms of takeaways, like it was great that Husan Longstreet got a bunch of run playing the whole second half. It was the first year in year 4 for Lincoln Riley where the backup quarterback had never played a college snap before, so getting him reps was imperative.
He seemed focused on that, yeah.
Yeah. Jaden Mayava, of course, was solid. I think I can take a few more takeaways from the defense than the offense because just last year, Missouri State was not a very good defensive team, and I think we kind of saw that they're probably not going to be a good defensive team this year when Jaden Mayava drives USC down for 5 easy touchdowns on the 5 drives he had in the first half. So, but it's exactly what you wanted to see. Riley and I talked about it on Instant Analysis where mission accomplished. It was great that Husan Longstreet got in. The defense looked great. Bishop Fitzgerald was probably the MVP of the game for me because of that first half. The pick 6 was great, but he was all over the field with multiple tackles for loss. He had a pass breakup. I was really impressed with him. He's someone I've been high on for a while. So, yeah, it was great that USC dominated in overmatched opponent and excited for Georgia Southern now. I mean, I rewatched the game today. I do have a bunch of takeaways. There was some stuff like that USC did, and they wouldn't have been able to do that against different teams. There were some blocks missed, and then they would still result in a big gain or whatever. But, like, all things considered, really no complaints when you win 73-13 by any means.
Yeah, we could take some we can do some high level stuff, but you know, and dig into the weeds a little bit. But like, you were on the sidelines, Riley, Eddie.
Yes.
What was it? I mean, I know it's good to be back, but just weird.
Yeah, great to be back. That was actually my first time watching the game from the sidelines in the Coliseum. Obviously, a very unusual game. I mean, spread 35.5, minus 35.5 for USC going into it. So, like Connor said, there was an expected win for USC, but, that many touchdowns, 9 different guys scoring, that's obviously what the Trojan fans want to see from the sidelines. I thought the atmosphere was great. The fans, a lot of students came out. It was hot out there. It was really hot. But I think, by the time it was third, fourth quarter, kind of cooled off a little bit. So, yeah, it was a great first game. I'm excited for the rest of the season. But, yeah, we can get into it. Like Ryan said, keep it coming in the chat. I'm looking for anything interesting. If you have any questions for us, I'll star them for later. And, yeah, live calls, that'd be fun, chat in with us.
Nice. I got a couple high-level thoughts, but real quick, you were down there on the field. What was the atmosphere like? I think the announced crowd was 62,000 something. It didn't look like it was that big, but the announced crowd's always bigger. But did it feel like a pretty good atmosphere, at least for the first half before things got out of hand?
I honestly expected there to be more energy. At least from the sidelines, it felt like there weren't that many people down there. I don't know if it was just like fewer media members. The stands looked pretty packed just from where we were down there. Great energy from the fans, but it felt quiet, like you could get in. There wasn't overcrowding in the media areas trying to get pictures or anything. So just being down there, I think it was a different perspective, and obviously you're watching the game a different way than if you're in the stands or in the press box or something like that. But yeah, great opportunity.
Yeah, I think, and I want to get into your deep dive stuff because I love that you rewatched it already. But I'll give some kind of high level, high view, whatever thoughts. And I think because I've seen on our message boards over at uscfootball.com. By the way, 75% off annual membership if you want to jump over there. It's perfect time to do that. Don't wait because it's going away very soon. But I would say there were some really strong takes, and I did a podcast with Harvey Hyde earlier today. The caller was really strong. This was pointless. It was like playing against air. I think you don't need a strong take about playing Missouri State. I think there's not a lot of reason to be upset. USC had Ole Miss on the schedule, and with all the conference realignment stuff, some people get really mad at that. Whatever. I just feel like USC's playing 9 Big Ten teams and Notre Dame this year. Last year they did that plus LSU. I mean, USC doesn't have a scheduling problem. They schedule very hard. It's hard enough. It's just one of those things that you need to go into it all right, I wasn't going to have a major take outside of USC playing a close game or losing. If you blow them out by 60 points, I just don't think you need to be there's so bad things. No, there's nothing bad that was happening. There was you might find 2 or 3 mistakes in the game. Can you take a lot away from it? I think Coach Harvey Hyde brought up an interesting point that if you're the coach or you're a position coach, head coach, it's hard to evaluate your team. You can't come away with looking at the tape wow, Connor was mentioning someone missed a block and it still goes for a big run. I think that happens on defense a lot where guys don't do what they're supposed to do, but they still make a sack. And then in the film room, they're look, you didn't do the right thing. You got kind of lucky. I think that it's hard to evaluate your team. But I think there's a real positive in development because you do get guys a lot of play. And last year, they didn't put really anybody away. There was games you didn't get to see backups play.
Just Utah State, that was it.
Utah State was the only one, And so to get this opportunity early, probably get an opportunity next week. It's, for Husan Longstreet to go 9 for 9 to start his college career, that's pretty darn good. I think that was something that didn't happen a lot of the Clay Helton era where you weren't putting teams away that you should have, and then you just didn't get these backups a chance. And then when someone gets hurt or guys leave early or transfer out, they didn't have any opportunities. So I agree. It's you can't tell a lot about your team from the game, but you can. There was a great step as far as developing the program. But I would just caution USC fans if you have some major negative take because you won 73-13, whatever. See what happens. You thought the world of the team after beating LSU. It wasn't a barometer. This is certainly not a barometer for the program, but nothing's pointing negative after what I saw yesterday.
Right. If something had been negative, then you got to be like, okay, why is this happening now? First game against Missouri State. And like you said, there is a balance between, okay, let's say you are getting more guys in, you go second, third, and then you're not seeing how the first string guys are handling the fatigue aspect of it. But then if you're keeping them in, you're tiring them out so that they get used to it, then you aren't seeing the younger guys. So there's a balance with everything.
Yeah, and he also talked about conditioning as far as like game conditioning.
Right.
The starters played like 30, 25 plays or something. Like, that's not game condition. So he suggested, hey, scrimmage this week because you need to get ready for next week. But when you play Purdue, that might be the first time the starters are going to get actual full game experience, you know. So that's the other aspect of it. But it's hard to have bad takeaways. I'm sorry, let you.
The one thing I agree with Harvey on is USC tried to run the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half with the first team offense, and then Missouri State was just so bad they let a little screen pass to Eli Sanders go
You couldn't even
73
do
yards,
like,
which was an impressive play. Don't get me wrong, that high step, that was one of the highlights of the day. But like that was, I was like, okay, 2-minute situation. Miami took a little bit long on a audible, maybe against a better team. That would be a problem, and then boom, Eli Sanders at 73-yard touchdown. So that was crazy. But I don't think by any means it's a waste of time. I do think yesterday, too, we could take away stuff from the depth chart where some of the younger defensive guys who saw time early, Marcellus Williams and Braylon Conley, came in at corner. I don't know what the future for them looks like when Chasen Johnson comes back, but the fact that they were in the mix with that first unit was awesome to see. And then Jade Abasiri starting, which we talked about with the depth chart. That was really cool. Floyd Boucard got some early run with some of the first-team defense. Christian Pierce was one of the winners yesterday who started at safety. I think one of the losers was Elijah Newby, unfortunately, because it's just so hyped up when you get that depth chart. It's like Tamir Robinson or Elijah Newby. Those guys are going to be starting linebackers. And then USC, they start with Kamari Ramsey at nickel. They don't use the third linebacker. That, to me, is why you can't always trust those public depth charts. And then you see Elijah Newby, who is still young. The future is bright for him, but he's playing a bunch at the end. I think we're going to see a lot of Eric Gentry, a lot of Desmond Stevens, and then when Alex Graham comes back, he'll be playing a lot of nickel, Kamari Ramsey. Expect to see more of that third safety than seeing a third linebacker, I would say. Maybe Jaden Walker would project to be that third linebacker. So I feel bad that I called Elijah Newby one of the losers of the day. He got really good reps and did a good job. But I'm talking about in terms of like who will see meaningful snaps this year, him playing into the fourth quarter. I don't think bodes totally well for him. And it seems like USC, like most college teams, because everyone throws the ball so much, they're going to be more in that classic nickel setup. And that's why Kamari played so much and Christian Pierce and Bishop Fitzgerald was the MVP, like I said. So a few takeaways with that for me.
Yeah. So watching it, like, there weren't a lot of mistakes. I liked what you guys talked about on instant analysis. Like, could you nitpick some stuff? And there was the fourth down.
Yeah, that
play.
was really the one big one where Kennedy Urlacher and DJ Harvey, two guys who are new to the system, especially Urlacher, just had a miscommunication. They both went with the same receiver, and then that left the wide open lane. So
yeah,
it's a coverage bust. No one wants to have those, but that's something that during film, it's like, hey, when this happens, just know your assignment a little bit better. That's not some big glaring problem.
No, yeah, you know that the Bears had a good quarterback. They had a good kicker. They had a couple. The first field goal was pretty long, I think, right, or a decent field goal.
44 or something.
Yeah, and then that touchdown was the only touchdown was on the fourth down play, break. And then Longstreet, maybe the pass protection wasn't the best. He goes back to throw the ball and hits a defender's helmet and stuff and fumbles it. And Elijah Vericona, jumped on the fumble. Like, USC should have retained the ball, but he just didn't wrap his arms around it. And like there's a teachable moment. Like when I think on the broadcast they even mentioned that. Like when on Tuesday when they're at practice and they're doing like fumble recovery drills, they're going to be like, don't just fall on the fumble, like wrap up the fumble. It was actually a really good play by the defensive lineman for Missouri State to actually grab it from underneath him. But, there was like a couple mistakes and so many things were good. And when you have, Shotgun and I were texting, I think we couldn't find a walk-on scoring a touchdown for USC prior to at least back to 2005. So at least 20 years. King Miller, long touchdown run. You got a walk-on defensive back or defender like
Garrett Pomerantz.
Yeah, get an interception. And he should have scored too, and they gave him crap about it. I think even Gavin Morris put it on his Instagram, You know, he did not follow his blocker and whatever. But it's fine. Like everybody was making plays. Like they emptied the bench and the scoring just kept happening. Like it just that's one of the things I think it's great for the development of the team and getting to see a bunch of those guys get played. It has to be good for team morale. Jade Mayava cheering on Husan Longstreet. Like people get excited, and guys like King Miller, like people go crazy when someone like that, you get a touchdown like that. And and it's funny, because we talked during the fall about Eli Sanders and how speedy he is and what he can do catching balls in the backfield. And what does he do? Boom, just touchdown. Wayman Jordan, like he's going to be a stud. And I actually tweeted like, well, USC hadn't run a run play the first 4 plays, and I think there were some RPOs, but it was like pass, and then Wayman Jordan big run, Wayman Jordan touchdown, and you're like, okay, so the guy we talked about the whole offseason, like we think this guy's going to be good. He scores the first touchdown. So it just felt like there was like this sort of script of like what we thought this team could be. The defensive line could be a lot better. Bishop Fitzgerald's going to come in and be a stud, and like everything sort of came to fruition. So, I mean, it's cool. It's cool for us. I'd rather say that than like, oh, Bishop Fitzgerald's going to be great, and he was terrible. Like, no, everything we kind of thought about this team was pretty much true.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that was the opponent, but absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I wrote about in my takeaways. Like, who did we hear the most about? Wayman Jordan overwhelmingly at the end of camp. Eli Sanders was getting a lot of pub, and then Bishop Fitzgerald was really consistently doing great things. So those guys all ended up having a huge game. And then to your point about that Wayman Jordan run, if you go back and watch, Alani Noah affected that play enough that Jordan was able to spring it for a 26-yard gain. But when I'm talking about some of the stuff that they can clean up, Noah pulled and just kind of missed his guy, and Jordan's just so athletic that he was able to beat the Missouri State defensive player and get a 26-yard gain. But against like that's a teachable moment, and that's also why these games are valuable. Where of course you want to play the best possible competition. I'm not saying don't do that, but if that's a game against LSU, you don't have the opportunity to work out those kinks where it's a teachable moment for some of these guys. Husan Longstreet taking off and running a lot of teachable moments from this game, and that's why I respect what Coach Hyde was talking about, but it's not a waste of time.
No, I didn't think it was a waste of time for sure. I think that's one of those things where, I think there's all positives that come out of this. Like you have to make the best of it. I think having a long off season, knowing that you underperformed, and all you could do is play the team that's ahead of you, and you thump them. And you thought, we'll get into this, on Thursday more, but you thought Georgia Southern, especially with Clay Helton coming back, there's storylines there, but they were like, hey, that was a bowl team last year. That Missouri State moved up from FCS to FBS, and there was some culture shock going on. Where Georgia Southern, like legit team, like beat some good teams over the years. I think he beat Nebraska like when he first got there. A capable team, and then they go to Fresno and get absolutely thumped. So, you might see more of the same this week. But I caution everyone, like, I think there's a lot of fans that want to see them just pour it on Clay Helton and whatever. But you might see more of the same. But I think you just got to get as much out of these first 2 games that you can before you go on the road. And you can't take Purdue lightly. They look like a way better team than last year. Barry Odom's turned them around. So just, take what you can positive out of this, and don't worry about, they suck and it doesn't mean anything. Like it doesn't not mean anything. Like, we watch 7-on-7 on air and stuff doesn't happen. Like they missed 3 passes all day. Like Husan Longstreet didn't miss one. Like that's not easy to do. And we've seen Jade Mayava make a bunch of mistakes. He kept things within, just reason. Like he didn't have to push anything.
What'd you think of that first play? Did your heart go, oh God?
That seemed very. I think we were on the text there. It was like that was very Jade Mayava. It was like the rollout and
then
like
he missed Lemon, but besides that, he was exceptional.
Yeah, like it was good, and ran the ball.
That first play though, was like, oh God, here we go again.
It's funny. I think you guys mentioned it on Instant too. With we saw Husan Longstreet take off and run a bunch, and that just happens with the young quarterbacks, and he did. Yeah. But I think it's part of. I'm not trying to like paint, put rose-colored glasses on it, but I'm too old to think like, oh, there's a whole bunch of negative things that happen when you beat a team 73-13.
No, let's see what they look like against Purdue. I think that's where we got to start.
And even next week, can you follow it up? Because we saw a lot of teams. I mean, Michigan played New Mexico, and if you followed, where did the quarterback go? He went to
which one?
New Mexico's quarterback. He went
Utah?
he went to Utah with his offensive coordinator, and they smoked UCLA. USC gets Eli Sanders. He's like, amazing. And like New Mexico lost a bunch of stuff, and Michigan was right there with them. Like they weren't like blowing them. It was 35-17 or something like that. Like that should have been a team that's like decimated. And I picked New Mexico to cover just because their social media game was pretty awesome.
Depth chart
It was
stuff.
the depth chart stuff. They did an office spoof. It was all great. But like does Michigan feel good about they get their freshman quarterback starting against a team and you beat them by like 17 and they were driving, you got an interception? Like it could have been even closer than that. You just got to do what's there. Like sometimes you're working out the kinks. If your way of working out the kinks is to just absolutely boat race a team, like that's way better than like it was way closer than we thought. We didn't cover the spread and all that. I mean, they almost doubled the spread. So yeah.
I will say it's really hard to compare non-power 4 teams. Like there's just such a wide difference between Missouri State and New Mexico, even with all their
Old Dominion, I don't think is very good at all. And Indiana, it was like 27-14 or something.
Colorado State's on the higher end of that spectrum, and they gave Washington a good game. So I do think, like, once the Big Ten starts, it's going to be interesting to see what the middle of that conference looks like, because I don't think outside of Northwestern and who else might stink? Like, I think Purdue will be better. Rutgers had a tough time with Ohio. Like, there's a couple of bottom feeders, but outside of Northwestern on USC's schedule, Iowa didn't look particularly good, but I do think they can get better. Like, the middle of that conference is still going to be pretty good, and I'm excited to see what it all looks like.
Yeah, Iowa brought an FCS quarterback that was really good.
Yeah, UCLA, someone mentioned in the chat, they didn't look good either.
No, UCLA looked. Don't close off. Here, I want to, Riley can probably show me how to make one of those guy with sign memes or something like that. It's like, I want to just do one of those, me holding up saying, closing practice to the media doesn't make your team better. Like, they were terrible. Oh my God, that was bad. And Utah looks like they're back. They're usually better when people don't think they're good. And
that offensive line is.
They have a really good offensive line, and you bring in a system and a quarterback, and wow, they looked pretty legit. Nice.
Consider that warning. We're going to be upgrading the social media, Ryan. Now you we're going to get you going on some trends.
What'd you guys make of sorry, go ahead.
No. I just mentioned Riley did a great job shooting some vertical video for us that we put on some socials, and I said, I did some TikToks, and she was like, TikToks? So I think we're going to have to get Riley involved in the TikTok game because
I would love to.
I don't watch a lot of TikTok. I just don't get into that. But we have a Peristyle TikTok, and I think we got like 21 or 19,500 followers, something like that, something in that range. So if we can get Riley's TikTok game going, Chris does a good job. He had a couple viral ones that went, like one of the Caleb Williams one got over 2 million views. But we'll get Riley on that game.
Shameless plug. Check out the TikTok, Peristyle TikTok.
Yeah, what's yours, Riley?
Riley S. Sager.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also not too involved in TikTok, but maybe this is my sign.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like a big TikToker or something. So
I'm trying to get off of TikTok.
Yeah, Connor, what about you?
I have my crappy little account that I just take the videos that we do here and just copy
just throw them up there. Yeah.
You guys doing the shorts has been helpful. One thing I did want to bring up with all of you, the culture piece where we see USC come out in the black sweatsuits and all in uniform and no longer doing the different outfits.
Yeah.
Like, that to me I think is a little overblown. It's nice that they all were wearing the same thing. That tweet that I had about that got like 1,000 likes on Twitter. I didn't even think I worded stuff very well, but everyone was just so excited that USC was doing this. Yeah. When we talk about culture and the togetherness of the team, I want to talk about a different thing that I saw in this rewatch. So after Husan Longstreet had driven down USC for one of the touchdowns that he did in the second quarter, I saw on the broadcast the third-string quarterback, Sam Heward, who came in hoping that he would win this backup job, really just smiling and coaching up Husan and just being there for him. And just the vibe seemed really good, where I think last year there was some animosity at the top where Miller Moss was very protective of that first job, and then he ended up losing it, and there was a problem. Like, he was frustrated, of course, but I think as that all kind of transpired, the quarterback room, the culture in there wasn't as good as you would hope. And looking at it's only one game, and we'll see what happens down the line. But looking at what I saw yesterday, and especially in the rewatch today, like the fact that Heward, who lost the job to Longstreet, was just being so welcoming and so just nice with him, and smiling. That to me, I think like that's an example of when people say, "Oh, the culture's better." Like I can point to that and say I agree. Them all wearing the same outfits, I don't really think that necessarily matters.
Well, like the kids, like me and Riley, like what we call it drip check. So
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. That's just. I thought it was fit. Like I was trying to catch up with fit, and then it became drip. I don't know whatever. But yeah, it was. I think this is, and I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Lincoln Riley said this is coming from Tremaine Carroll.
He did.
But
He said they voted on it.
But I believe this is coming from Tremaine Carroll, and I think this was talking to Coach Harvey Hyde. I think he knows like the Kansas State culture, and this was like, hey, everyone's going to dress the same, and yes, the old school coaches and stuff. That's the way they like things, and having everyone coming out showing some individual flair, coming off the bus and walking through the Coliseum. That Riley talked about that being more of an NFL kind of model, but I think what they wanted to accomplish when they replaced the strength and conditioning coach that spends the most time with the players than any other the assistant coaches, the actual football coaches, was that discipline aspect of it. And hearing about the first workout where we couldn't get through stretching, it's like, well, would you just normally say, well, they're stretched, that's good enough, but let's get the workout in. He's like, no, this is how we stretch. And I think this was one of the situations like, no, this is how we come off the bus. This is how we're going to walk into the Coliseum as a team. And it's just more about, these are all the details that we're going to put together. We all follow the same thing, as a team deal. And if it helps, does it really matter if you're wearing a fur coat or I don't think so. But it's more just about that attitude of like, this is how we do things. And then you're not questioning, well, how should I do this? No, this is how we do this. This is how they know how they do everything. I think that's just more, when it got too loosey-goosey, you sort of lose your right to like walk in with drip check stuff. And now you have to we're coming as a team, and this is the way it's going to be.
And that's good, but I just don't understand why you need to hire a strength coach to have that happen. Like, what other programs are we talking about? Oh, like the strength coach came in and switched everything. Like the culture and just the conduct, that should be from the top. So I'm glad that things are getting righted, but it's just interesting to me that it's like the magic wand. We got this new strength coach, and now everything's just all set. That it seems like there needs to be a little bit more going on there.
Yeah, Coach Harvey had actually brought that up. He's like, that should be the head coach's decision.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. He actually asked the players if they felt that was okay. We don't know for sure. My guess is there was like a powwow with Tremaine Carroll and Lincoln Riley and talking about the culture stuff and something he would point out. And I think the ultimate call is Lincoln Riley's, but my guess is there was at least some influence from Tremaine Carroll coming in and doing that. But I don't know. What did you think of the drip check route that us kids talk about,
Well, yeah, I saw them walking.
I'm just kidding, sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. I was just playing.
No, you're making me laugh.
Well, I saw the players walking down the steps, and obviously that's not what we're used to seeing from the team. So I took note of it, and obviously Coach Riley talked about it in the press conference after. Changing your outfits like that, obviously that's not going to win you games, but I think Tremaine Carroll, he said this throughout camp, just how you do anything is how you do everything. And so it's not so much this one small event, it's just like this is another thing that is adding to the evidence of why this team is a cohesive unit. So, I mean, you can look into it or not, but I guess it would be better than something like a different example going in the wrong direction. At least they think they're being,
Helpful.
Yeah.
If it's a placebo effect, whatever, that's fine. Yeah. I wonder what the chat is, because there's definitely a lot of, especially USC fans, there's some older fans that are just like, yes, like everyone, tie your shoe this way, or I'm like, I don't know. I mean, people that are like uniform, like we should have white socks, or we should have, I'm like, I don't even notice. Like I couldn't tell you what color socks they wear, but there's some people that just like, we want this. But there's a lot of people that are like, yes. What I think even Harvey Hyde was like, they need to do more. And I was like, no, dude, they're already dressed the same. It's fine. Like, he wanted certain colors. I'm like, I don't care what color they wear. They're all wearing the same thing. That's fine with me. But and then there's some people that are like, that's old guy yelling at clouds. And, but I like the discipline aspect of it. And just mostly because it I think it got too loose. And so this is sort of like a way to kind of, to bring things in. And, I don't know, but I'm cool with it.
I guess just what I'm saying is it's one thing for it to get too loose in the weight room, and it's another thing for it to get too loose when you're getting off of a bus and walking to the locker room. Like, to me, those are two totally different things. So I'm not trying to take away from the fact that Tremaine Carroll's made some major differences in the weight room and to how the team operates. But like when you change your clothes, I don't know if that necessarily needs to fall in that same thing. But hey, if they keep winning games and it's because they are freaking wearing black before the game starts, then so be it. I'll gladly admit that I was wrong. I talk to players and they say, you know what, it was that outfit change. That's what really did it.
What was the NFL team where they couldn't have beards or something? What was
the Yankees couldn't.
Oh yeah, the Yankees. Yeah,
But they got rid of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people got mad.
That they got rid of it. Yeah, that stuff's kind of like, all right, whatever. But I think this was probably something. Just to be fair, I think it's probably something the team needed. Like, okay, just probably get rid of that stuff and let's come off the bus as a team and, whatever. But, yeah, what's the vibe in the chat?
David says, players need to lock in instead of worrying about their clothes. Yes, it matters. Everything matters.
Everything matters.
Everything matters.
I
mean,
that.
I guess it's more important how the players view it. If this is a confidence boost, like, yeah, we're on the same page. Coach Riley's saying that the players voted on this, like, this is what they wanted. Whatever helps, I guess. But we'll see how it actually plays out. Obviously, the discipline aspect is going to come in when you're actually in the game, not walking to the field.
I did a little research, not like on this specifically, but I think this was during like the Kiffin and Sark era where things got, when Sark was obviously loose with whatever. I mean, he didn't last that long, and things got kind of weird with Lane Kiffin. They were both younger coaches then, and they've both gone through the Saban Rehabilitation Center and all that. And they're, I think they're both significantly better coaches now. But it was about like, and if you remember, like Cody Kessler, Sua Cravens were like captains on that team where Sark got fired, and they were sort of asked, they were put out in front of everybody, like the media, like they weren't talking to. Those guys were the ones like representing the team, and it just wasn't that wasn't right. Like it wasn't, the leadership I think failed them, and it was obviously there wasn't going to be a lot of discipline on the team. And I little research on this, but like sometimes you have younger people in situations like that, and they almost just crave like, look, we need someone that's in charge to tell us what to do. Like it's like you're craving discipline. Like if you have your kid and you leave them home all day and they can eat cookies and cake for like, yeah, that seems cool for a while, but after a while they're like, hey, someone tell me to do my homework. Like they just they need someone in authority to like actually help them develop as a human being. And I think this is kind of one of those situations where it's like someone's coming in and it's like they know that they've messed up. They shouldn't be 13-11 the last two regular seasons. Some adult in the room come in and tell me what I'm doing wrong, and I'll follow it, and then we'll just I'll get good grades, and boom, we're going to be good. So I think there might be a little bit of that at play where you just craving some discipline because it just got loose for a while, and whatever it is, it was great eating cookies for breakfast, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I would do that.
Are you saying USC was eating cookies for breakfast last year?
I don't know, maybe there was some. It was happening a lot before when. I mean, there was the good thing now is leadership is so much better, and when you have good leadership, it's going to help everyone below. But when you had back then, you had bad athletic directors, coaching making a lot of bad decisions, and nobody was sort of fixing anything, and the kids are just sort of like there, like okay, what's going on? If it's like you got a house full of like foster kids and. DEA comes in and they're like raiding because they're selling meth out of the back, and it's like all these kids are like, I don't know what we're doing. Like, they don't know what's wrong. I'm not saying that's what was happening at USC. These are analogies, but just is it the kids' fault that there was just chaos going on around them? Like there was chaos going around this football program, the athletic department, for years and years. And the good thing now is like you have a really strong athletic director. I mean, a really strong coaching staff with certainly questions with. The head coach and all that, and a strong personnel department. I think you got a really strong strength and conditioning. I think the pieces are in place to like, all right, now the kids aren't going to be running around in the backyard like eating bugs and stuff. Everything should be good.
Your brain works in interesting ways.
Did you eat bugs when you were a kid or something?
I don't know. We did a lot of stuff. I'm old.
Yeah.
Riley.
I do like what you're saying, and I agree. And what have we said on the show so much over the years? Riley is Lincoln Riley, not you, Riley, is resistant to change, and there's been a lot of changes made. And,
Tons.
And I've been so critical of him for not changing, and he has changed. So I want to tip my cap to him in that regard. The general manager hire,
Tip your visor.
Tremaine Carroll, stuff with NIL, which I think he even would admit like they needed a change on, and that maybe wasn't a thing that he pushed back against. But like for us to sit here and say, oh, they got to change the NIL, they got to change, like we would say that, and they've made a lot of these changes. So he's the leader of the program, he's the guy in charge, and the buck stops with him. So the fact that USC, I think, with this culture stuff, this whole conversation, it's a good conversation to be having where, like, okay, we can disagree on the merits of it and, like, how much is going to make a difference. But the fact that a change occurred, I think, is good.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think coaches can be absolutely mind-numbingly stubborn and just worried about everything. I mean, the fact, Deshaun Foster closing the media, not allowing players to speak, you're like, you really think that's going to make your team better? Like, it's this weird distraction.
How'd that work?
Yeah, it did not work. You got absolutely boat raced by Utah. But I will give Lincoln Riley credit. And however it happened, there's people that hate him. They're like, oh, Jen Cohen, Chad Bowden, Dan Lynn, they get all the credit. And there's other people who are like, you guys are bashing the coach. He gets all the credit. I think you have to be smart enough to know there's other smart people, and you need to use everybody. And even though you're you're a monarch as a college football head coach, and if you're the head coach of Alabama, you're like the most powerful person in the state. Like there's things like that, but also you need people. And I think I have to give Riley credit because maybe things are run differently now, and you're taking feedback. And hey, this is the right thing, the right way to go. And so it's his. He gets paid the most. The buck stops with him, like you said, but I also feel like he's allowing more input, and it's like, hey, this makes sense, and let's try it. At the end of the day, if he feels someone comes into an idea, if it's Jen Cohen or Chad Bowden or Tremaine Carroll or Danton Lynn, and he doesn't like it, they're not doing it. He's the dude. But it's to his credit that you're like, hey, there's some good ideas coming in. Let's incorporate this and make it a better program overall.
Yeah, I think that's apt. I agree. I don't have much to add to that. I think you nailed it, Ryan.
I think all of those changes in the offseason that we've been talking about for the past couple months, obviously it's going towards one thing, one goal. So as fans, you can kind of see the little changes that are happening. But I'm curious, from yesterday's game, is there anything that you can reliably look at and be like, okay, this is insight into something that could happen this season?
I don't know about that, but how about on the kickoffs when they're all doing this? That was new. Jay Mayava's right in the middle of it.
Swag surfing?
And Tremaine Carroll.
Is that what it's called, swag surfing? Yeah, that's what we call it. Swag surfing.
There's a song. I could play the song if I knew how to do that.
No, it's on my favorites.
They had done something similar. Like I remember Tyler Robles was leading the charge with something on kickoffs, but everyone wasn't doing it, and like yesterday, it's just seeing Jaden Mayava lead that was cool. I don't know if that means they'll be 9-3 now, but I do think that's something that it does seem like it's something that's we're excited about. How about Husan Longstreet's performance? Besides the fumble, I think
he looks legit.
I don't think you really want to see him much this year at important games unless he just comes on really strong and is better than Mayava. But like the fact that he is a runner, he probably ran a little bit too much for me, but like. You can see that he has a really high ceiling, and what is this offense needed so badly? I think they could have gotten away without a running quarterback if they called stuff differently, but obviously that just makes such a big difference. We were all watching that Nebraska-Cincinnati game Thursday night, and Cincinnati's quarterback couldn't throw, but he was running all over the field. Like that makes such a big difference, and the fact that you saw Husan Longstreet's dual threat ability, he took some heavy hits in this game. He'll learn from him. He was 9 of 9. It wasn't perfect, obviously, but it was a really, really strong debut for a kid and a true freshman. I mean, not to throw any shade at Malachi Nelson. It was night and day different from the series that Nelson got against San Jose State. So I don't know how that affects maybe this year, Riley, but to answer your question, that is definitely something that affects the future of the program. I mean, he just looked so poised when he got in there. He was taking the call from Lincoln Riley and making checks. A very, very exciting debut, and again, I don't think we necessarily want to see him this year if you're a USC fan, because then that would mean something happened to the starter. But like the future is definitely bright at the position, which I think when you look at the team last year, I thought the quarterback room was going to be better. There wasn't that guy you could get really excited about. Now they have that. We saw evidence of why you're getting excited last night.
Yeah, and I think like if you're looking for, okay, I watched the game and this is what I think, but it's tough because it was an overmatched opponent. I mean, when you look at the running back, well, King Miller broke away. It's like there was huge holes. no matter what you were doing. And it's hard to get specific takeaways about that. But I think something you said, Riley, was about the decisions made in the offseason. And I'm a big, make good decisions guy. It's not one decision all the time. Sometimes there's a massive decision you have to do. Like someone asks you to marry them, you're like saying yes. Obviously, that's a big decision. But it's more about like the little decisions that add up over time. And when you have bad leadership, and I harped on this for a long time, just about when you had athletic directors that didn't know what they're doing, every day they're making decisions, and most of the time they're bad. Dan Weber famously said that if you reversed every major decision that Pat Hayden made, the USC would be way better off. Like every major decision he made was the absolute opposite of what you should do. And I do love analogies. Brian in the chat hates my cookie analogies. He's like, oh, no, another one. Sorry, Brian. But this is what I've used before, where it's like, if you decide to park in a handicap spot or whatever, remember the old UCLA Cade McNown days where all the football players got in trouble for that. Like you get a ticket, you go home, you pay it, and whatever. Like I'm not going to park in a handicap again, but you're like, okay, but then you park near a fire hydrant, and then you park at a no-tow, and you just keep not paying the tickets. Like each one of those decisions is like, okay, whatever, like $50 or whatever your city charges. But you keep making too many of those, and then all of a sudden there's a boot on your car. And that's a series of bad decisions that leads to something major. You went from paying $50 a few times to my car is immobilized, and that's a group of bad decisions together. And sometimes you're not going to say. So when Clay Helton, I don't want to besmirch Clay Helton who's coming in this way, but when he went out and hired a strength coach that was not working in college for 5 years, and I liked Aaron Osmus. He sat in this chair and we talked and stuff. But there's decisions like that. Like, does that impact your team today? No, but maybe 2 years from now, there's something like the pandemic happens and he's not familiar with ways to train your body without a whole weight room, because that was his complete focus. And you needed body weight exercises that everyone could do in their home. Now, could you expect that? Like, no, but that was not going to be his specialty. But that's just a decision you made that you're like, could you have hired someone that was like, you're USC, someone that's a current head strength and conditioning coach at some other big program? Like, you probably should have. But the minute you made that decision, it's like, okay, did the world crash down? No. But over time, like those, you make a bunch of those that are bad. And I think he made a bunch of kind of subpar hires, assistant coaches and things like that. And right away, you didn't know, but we would say something like that on the show. And then 5 months later, a year later, whatever, you're like, yeah, that didn't work out. They didn't recruit that position well because they hired this coach. And so I think they made a lot of good decisions. This is my long ass rant because I'm an old guy, so I can do that. And it's my show. And
it's your show.
So whatever. They made a lot of good decisions, Riley, as you pointed out, in the offseason. And does that mean that's why they won by 60? No, I don't think that's why. But that's a pretty good sign that you made a whole bunch of good decisions in the offseason. They're recruiting really well. None of those players are on the field. But that just shows me that behind the scenes, things are probably going well. When Deshaun Foster comes out and blocks the media from covering press, that tells me behind the scenes, without knowing anything, that things aren't going well. Like you've made some bad decisions behind the scenes to come up with this crap. We're going to do poorly. What can we do? We can block the media. Like, I think that's just sort of the main thing. Is that I think USC made a lot of good decisions in the offseason. That's probably going to bode well for some results during the season. I don't know if it's going to win 1, 2, 3 more games. I don't know what it is, but I think it's definitely going to be better for USC than if they made a bunch of bad decisions in the offseason.
Is there anything else you would have liked to see from the offseason?
Yeah,
I mean,
better transfer portal guys, I think.
They could have, but I think that when Chad Bowden came in, like they sort of did what they could do at that point. They missed the first window with him. But, yeah, the only thing I think you could have upgraded the personnel department earlier, and that would have met, like you might have kept Emmanuel Pregnon and stuff. But since then, I think there was a lot of good decisions made.
Yeah, I mean, that, it's hard to say they should have done this after a 73-13 win, but like we need to see what this offensive line looks like against a better team, especially on the right side. Not that there were many shaky moments, but that first play where Mayaba's scrambling for his life, those guys on the right side didn't exactly look great. And you see Anthony Lucas and Braylon Shelby playing late into that game. I would have liked if they added another edge rusher, but what I like to say in the show, let's not get them in trouble for something that they haven't done yet. If those guys end up being great and the season is a big success and they have enough depth, I'll happily admit that I was wrong. But just because of this big win, I think a lot of the preseason concerns I had, even though USC's made a lot of good decisions, they're still there. And how can they not be after playing a team like that?
No, I think that's a really good point. When that's a really good example of like decisions where you're like, hey, why are you relying on these guys that are unproven on the offensive line? Well, you could have done this. You could. There's a lot of stuff like that, and some fans get upset because like, well, you don't know. But yeah, so I feel like once they got the personnel staff upgraded, I feel better about those decisions going forward. But going into it, yes, they could have another edge rusher. There could be an extra tackle that's a stud that either recruited or you brought in from the portal. I get that, and I think if USC fails and it's like, hey, the offensive line broke down, yeah, they could have done. Now those are probably decisions that are more than 6-8 months ago. It's probably more than a year ago. But I think that's real. And when you do that, it's sort of like, okay, you missed on this recruit, especially on the offensive line. That doesn't show up till like 2 or 3 years later. So I think it's a really good example of it. And there's certainly other bad decisions that were made. But I've just in the last since the January or whatever, it seems like a lot of really good decisions have been made, which is all you can ask.
I agree. And the interesting thing is, when you add it all up, how will it all affect the future?
Yeah.
And that's why they play the games.
But just the general vibe, I guess, from Saturday, you're like, all right, it's really hard to see a lot wrong. And so it sort of reinforces your thought that I'm not saying like, wow, these running backs are the best in the country because you're not saying that stuff. But you feel a little bit better about USC made a bunch of better decisions, and you sort of feel better. Like, has there been a Lincoln Riley game where you felt like this? Like, even when you put up 60 points and you gave up a bunch more, or, you give up 3 touchdowns to Nick Nash. Like, there wasn't anything like there was a takeaway like that. I think with that Colorado game, I remember that backup running back had like 200 yards receiving in the second half. There was always some weird stuff. And, this is not a Colorado type opponent, but this was more like, all right, you made a bunch of good decisions, looked pretty good. I'm not going to check plus and then just move on. Like, I'm not giving an A or anything, but you get a check plus because that's just our grading scale for this. Like, you couldn't do much more.
I agree. It was just something that needed to be done. Mission accomplished. They got the job done. Coach Riley said last night they're going to have 24 hours to relax, enjoy the win with their families, and then tonight they're back at it with lifting and running.
Yeah, good. Better them than us.
And no Labor Day weekend for them. So I gave my MVP of the game to Bishop Fitzgerald.
Okay.
That's a good talk show topic. Do you
like
guys have an MVP, or do you feel the same? I'd love to give you guys the floor for that.
Let's see. So, you want to give us the reasons why it was Bishop?
Yeah, because he had the pick six. I felt like he was USC's best defensive player. He seemed to always be in the right spot where he would, whether it was the tackles for loss or the pass breakups, he just really impressed me. 4 tackles in the first half, which led the team, tied with Desmond Stevens. He really popped, and him and Kamari back there, if another nickel ends up coming in, if it's Alex Graham or someone else, really, really impressive guy. And I think, obviously he's not going to have that kind of performance every game, but, there are other guys who had huge performances who we're just not going to see a lot the rest of the year. He's going to be a mainstay in this defense, and I do think that what he did yesterday is something that we can kind of say, okay, because he did that, he'll be good in the future, where there's some other guys, it's like the jury's still kind of out. He looked like a professional yesterday.
Yeah, I think he did, and I think it's a good pick. Riley might be better at this because I feel like this is like picking an MVP of like an NBA All-Star game,
A little bit.
like her dad would do back in the day or whatever. But I would say this is, I think I'm just going to, because, you got players playing half the game and then going away. Yeah. But I think when you're QB1 coming in as the leader of a team, for the very first time to start a season, and what I had asked of him was don't make a mistake. Don't throw a pick. Don't fumble the ball. And he kept the ball out of harm's way. it wasn't just the amount of turnovers last year, but if you looked at the PFF numbers, and they don't mean everything, but it gives you some insight, there was a lot of turnover-worthy plays. We saw when he took over for Miller Moss, not only did the turnovers go up, but the turnover-worthy plays went up significantly, and then there wasn't any from this game. And, threw the ball well, ran well. So I think for him, the whole offseason, knowing that Riley could have tried to get somebody from the portal, whatever, he has to be the leader of this team. He's asked to be more vocal. And I think he did all those things. So I think, to me, he made a lot of good decisions in the offseason. So I'll give it to Jaden Mayava. QB1.
MVP is so hard. I'll do a player I'm most excited about.
Okay.
It was a player going into the game that I still had in mind, Wayman Jordan. Being on the sideline and just watching him move like that, I mean, especially fans who've never watched his film before, they're like, who is this? I had friends texting me like, oh my God, it's Ashton Genty. And I was like, okay.
I love that.
That's awesome.
But I think just watching him play like live like that for the first time, obviously he didn't win the entire game. He didn't get all 73 points. Like, that's not necessarily also what MVP is. But I think there's just so much to look forward to in him. And coming into this, from JUCO, he had all these high expectations, but that doesn't mean it's going to pan out. Expectations don't mean anything until you're proving them. So that's my take on it.
No, great one.
I like that one.
He was electric.
He kind of set the tone early.
Yeah.
So for probably
they wouldn't give him the ball. I was like, give him the ball.
For all the running backs, he probably should be our MVP, because I think all of us said this guy's going to be good. And it's one of those things where in the offseason, because of the transfer portal, no one knows who Wayman Jordan is. You're like, he won the FCS Heisman. And you're
JUCO
like,
Heisman.
JUCO Weekly.
I'm sorry, JUCO Heisman. Yeah, sorry. The JC Heisman. And it's like, hey, what's up with that? If you want to say Lincoln Riley's the best or he's the worst coach ever, like whatever your opinion is, just do me one favor. Like, he has nailed one thing at USC, is he nails the transfer running backs. Like, every single year from, Austin Jones was great, but, Travis Dye is like awesome. You get Marshawn Lloyd coming in. I always forget his name for some reason. Like Marshawn. Woody Marks, we got to introduce you guys to him in the offseason, and we just had to tell you, look, you are going to love this guy. And so it was so great to see him perform. MVP of the team last year, like not of any, like he was the MVP of the team and didn't get the ball enough. And now you get a guy like Wayman Jordan and just how you can rally around. Every year they've brought in somebody that's jumped into the culture and just become a leader on the team that everyone can rally around and the fans love. And so he's nailed that. So you can be critical of anything, Riley, but you have to give him credit for bringing in transfer running backs. And this guy's going to be around a little bit longer. Like the other guys were one and dones. But Woody was the most fun, just to have him on our show and have everyone like, oh my God, he's amazing. Like just talking about where he got his nickname from and just such a genuinely nice dude. And everyone's like, I'm going to root for that guy. And then we had him at the Coaches Club in Torrance. And we told everyone, like, you're going to love this guy. And after he was done speaking, everyone was just like, oh, my God, I can't wait to root for this guy. And he was the MVP, so
yeah, and he made the Texans, so congrats.
Yeah, he's on the squad. So I think it's a great MVP call there. Do you like it? Do you think it was an NBA All-Star MVP kind of thing?
I mean, yeah.
Another analogy?
yeah, I love my analogies, but.
The hot and cold feelings in the chat about them. But, no, for
Hot
Wayman
and cold. What are you people doing? You know who runs the show? Come on.
For Wayman Jordan, Connor, I think we left to go to Instant, and then he was doing press. Were you able to watch that?
No, I haven't watched it.
Okay. I'm just curious if he...
Yeah, I have to check it out. But hopefully you guys like him.
That.
I think we feel good about hyping him in the offseason. I mean, Gerard was probably one of the earliest on him when he was being recruited to go back and watch his film. He's like, instantly was like, this is the guy, And so Chris was talking about it. Then we start watching stuff and it's like, wow. And then you start watching him in workouts and hearing from other players. And you're like, all right, this guy's going to be the dude. And luckily he was.
It is early, of course, game one. So we'll see if anybody else emerges. But, yeah, I like the MVP, our go-to guy after each game. So we'll keep checking in on that.
Yeah,
but
that's a good idea.
I agree. It is hard, especially when a game like yesterday when that many people are contributing,
You had some notes from your rewatch. Do you want to go over anything, or do we kind of touch on most of them?
We touched on most of it. It's helpful to me to write stuff down to just kind of remember who did what. Like I had forgotten Corey Sims got his first career reception. He had been called for a penalty that negated a touchdown, and then Riley went right back to him.
I thought that was classy. Yeah.
On the next play, that's the great way to build up a freshman. On some other play I felt like Walker Lyons missed a block, and then USC still had a big gain. So there were a couple instances where I didn't think the execution on offense was perfect, but USC was just so much better than Missouri State that it didn't end up mattering. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the offense looks against a better team. And kind of like how we started off the show, rewatching that game and then remembering the research that we did before that game, like Missouri State was a pretty poor FCS defense last year, so putting that in context, it kind of makes sense why USC had that kind of success on offense.
Yeah. There was the other mistake was that early overthrow that Mayava had. You know, it's funny that 8 different offensive players scored touchdowns. I think, Riley, you might have pointed it out in an instant, or maybe it was you, Connor.
It was Riley.
And no Jacoby Lane and no Makai Lemon.
No. What was the odds on that? You'd be a millionaire.
Yeah, but they did give you a feel like, that overthrow, I think you would like that back, put a little more air under that, and it's a touchdown. But early on, and I think Yogi Roth brought it up on the broadcast, like you had 5 mouths to feed. And this was something I asked Lincoln Riley about in Vegas. And I think USC didn't distribute the ball well, and they were trying to keep people happy. I think now everyone knows you got your 2 alphas, and they got all the passes to start. And then they started working the tight ends. Like, that was cool. And then you're going to, mix in some of the other guys. And then, obviously, you had backups coming in and all that. But I think that system is going to work pretty well. You have your 2 studs, feed them. And they'll do that, and they'll mix in other guys. If they can get the tight ends more involved. I didn't know Lake McCree could run that fast. I don't know if he thought he could run that fast.
He definitely looks the healthiest he's looked.
Yeah. So I think that's a positive kind of coming out of it too.
It was funny. Someone asked him about that yesterday after the game. They're like, "Have you ever run that fast?" He's like, "I think that's the fastest I've ever run in my career." Like, he just took off.
Yeah.
I think he said he thought there was going to be another defender, and he just kept going and then missed him, and it just worked out.
Yeah, pretty cool. That was a good one. But we can probably get into questions if that's cool.
Yeah.
I know. What's the game like now? Is it 21-7 now or something?
21-7, Miami, Notre Dame. A tough time on offense.
Interesting. We don't have any calls yet, but if you want to call in and chat, 512-4-TUNNEL. And I don't know how many comments we got, Riley, but we can start getting to
A lot of comments, so I'm just going through for the questions. First one is DJ Jordan in the doghouse. Coaches spoke highly of him in the spring.
No, I think he just lost his job. I think he was just beaten out by Tanu Kynes. Looks like Zacharias Williams is ahead of him. It just seems like he's lower on the totem pole. I put him as a starter on my depth chart because of the same reason the commenter was talking about. We heard a lot of really positive reviews. When we were able to watch practice, he was a little bit up and down, but it just seemed like he was consistently involved. And I think he got sick at the end of camp, and when he wasn't available, it looked like someone else beat him out. So I don't think he's in the doghouse per se. I think he just lost a spot.
Did he get a penalty? And that was there?
No, that was Jay Fair, number 9.
Oh yeah, they changed 19, it. I think from 19 to 9. Okay.
And then DJ Jordan scored a touchdown, but Corey Sims got a holding penalty.
That would have been nice for him. But yeah, and I think with the younger players, like it's this is the way it's going to start now. And like you said, you get sick at the end of camp, you're out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. He might make some plays. If that looks good on film when he caught the touchdown, all that, I think that's going to help him going forward. But it's going to be, we got to fill in. We got 2 Batmans and we got a bunch of Robins, and which guys are going to fill in?
Yeah.
More analogies for the chat that doesn't like them.
Dave Rice says, "What did you think of special teams, players, and coaching?"
Besides the kick out of bounds, I thought good. They didn't punt.
I was really impressed with the punt team. Oh, wait, they did punt.
No, I was like, I thought you...
I was joking, yes.
Impressed that they didn't. That's what I was like, is that what you meant?
And there were no issues, like no fumbles or nothing crazy. Fair had the penalty on one of them. I thought Makai Lemon this would be a good game for him to break one, and he didn't really come close to that, but he was so good as a receiver. I'm not saying anything was wrong per se, but I just felt like you get the ball in his hands as a return guy. I was kind of looking for him to maybe break one, but In terms of just the operation, I thought it was solid. Ryan Sayeri, who wasn't even supposed to be the starting kicker, filled in really well.
Yeah. One field goal, right?
Yeah, one field goal at the very end just to try it against a live opponent. I'm trying to think of anything off the top of my head. Yeah, I think the Jay Fair penalty, I mean, you don't want to see that, but who really cares in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah.
That's not the end of the world. That they looked operationally sound, for sure.
I sort of like it when it's like the offensive line or referees, like you just don't want to notice them.
Exactly.
Now, yeah, if it's a weapon, and I'm not expecting that, that's more of gravy. I just don't want to see shoot yourself in the foot, put yourself behind the chain, that kind of stuff. And that was happening too much. And to me, like if I'm coaching a team, which I'm not because I couldn't, but whatever, if I was, the focus would be on like, you earn the right to get big plays on special teams as long as you don't mess up. This isn't I don't want some high risk, high reward thing. It's like, I just want to get the ball back for the offense. So just make it so I don't notice you. If I have to come into your meeting because something, you don't want that. If you make a big play, I'm like, hey, I'll be the first guy to pat you on the back, but I just want to not notice them. And it was a bad team you're playing, but didn't notice them. So good thing for me.
I'm with you.
All right, another question. It's kind of cut off, so let's see what it says.
From Facebook, yeah. Nice.
Facebook question. Appreciate it. Donald McMullen says, in your opinion, what does USC need to change before they start Big Ten play?
Need to change. Tough to say after that first game.
I don't think you make big conclusions from this game,
right?
Negative or positive.
I would like to see them bring a third receiver along more, because if Lemon or Lane were to get hurt for whatever reason, they're really at a major disadvantage there, where they just don't have a lot of guys with experience. Again, that's not like a problem right now, but I do think the emergence of a true number 3 will be huge. Tanook Hines, who won that third receiver job, had the one catch, and I liked what we saw from him. But you got to play to win these games. It's not like they can go out and say, okay, we need to get a third receiver some action. But that's something I'd like to see a third receiver kind of establish himself before they start the tougher games. That's something that would stand out to me.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at the other side of that, is like you did get a lot of looks from a lot of different guys just to try it out. If you had to play the whole game and you had 2 dudes on the field, you got Lemon and Lane, and there was only one guy coming in every once in a while. Like now there was like a whole bunch of them out there, so you can kind of see. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. But nothing was established. You can't really establish anything from that. Like you're not coming away like King Miller's your starting running back because they were playing a bad team. But yeah, I agree with that. Donald looks very happy in his avatar, by the way. So him and his partner, like, way to go.
I agree, though. Not really a baseline. All right, logistics question. SC Dad question. Who's responsible for scheduling games? Lincoln, Chad, or Jen?
It comes from the athletic department. A lot of times coaches have say for sure, depending on the power. And when you have a head coach making $11 million, I think there's say in that. I don't know specifically like the ins and outs of why the Ole Miss game, went away. The LA Times did a story. It seems like there's some positive developments with the Notre Dame series. The people I talked to in the athletic department, I know they really want to get that done, but they want to get it on better terms. And USC is in a better place that they need the game less than Notre Dame does. I think USC fans would be really upset if it wasn't there, but I think it's a negotiation thing. But the head coaches are definitely, can be involved in that stuff. The problem is it's not like when a head coach is making a decision, it's like, hey, I want this at training table or whatever. It happens right now. Like if you're making a schedule decision, that's 8 years from now. So it's not necessarily the head coach a lot. If you get a long-term tenured head coach, you can sort of, manipulate that stuff. But it's tougher for coaches that are coming in for 3-4 years because even if they make a decision, it's gone. They're gone by the time the game comes around. But it's the athletic department's job, but powerful head coaches certainly can get involved in that.
Yeah, I think the Ole Miss game, that was supposed to happen this weekend, the first one. That was scheduled 5 years ago and then fell through, and Coach Riley was saying, hey, Missouri State and USC just kind of worked out. They were looking for an opponent. They had an open slot. And
yeah, Missouri State just went up from FCS to FBS, so they had an opening there. The other one, like this, I think this definitely came from Mike Bone when USC had UC Davis scheduled. So that was an athletic director I believe it was Pat Hayden, or I don't know if it was Lynn Swan, but scheduling UC Davis, knowing that USC had never played an FCS program. I think some of the low-hanging fruit, there were so many things bad in the department when Mike Bone and Brandon Sosta came in. They saw some low-hanging fruit that they would make a lot of fans happy if they got rid of the game. They paid a bunch of money. To their credit, they got rid of the game and scheduled San Jose State instead. And Mike Bone actually broke that on our show, so that was cool. So that was the athletic director stepping in, and that made a lot of sense. Like, hey, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna make this right. So, yeah, it's mostly from the athletic department, but you get a powerful head coach, they can certainly have influence.
We're going to keep going with the questions, but we need a live caller.
Yeah, we're no callers. Come on.
If you're driving, if you're just watching the show, call in.
We had a good one on Thursday. It was a good call.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
512-4-TUNNEL. We want to hear from you.
Look at Riley pimping us.
All right, Lamont Hart says, question, the thing I noticed the most was the difference in the team speed from last year. Did you guys notice the difference, or was it just me? And Hines, good, he can go.
Hines is fast.
God, he can go. But.
You know whose speed stood out to me? Cam Fountain on the run stuff that he had. He wasn't blocked on the play, but he came from the other side of the line of scrimmage, or the other side of the formation. The run wasn't to his side, and he's just like, it was like, oh my God, you blinked and he tackled the running back. So how quick he looked stood out to me. Wayman Jordan's new.
Eli Sanders fast for sure.
Yeah, Eli Sanders fast.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe the whole team speed is quicker, but in terms of guys who were here last year, Fountain was someone who stood out to me. But I think that's a fair observation. Let's see again how it goes against better teams. But yeah, there was definitely some speed on display.
And, I get it. Like, when you see Eli Sanders just run away from people, or
The high step. That was awesome.
Tanook Hines, when he's running, we've seen USC play overmatched opponents. I think even there was a Zachariah Branch one, or where just you weren't running away from. It might have been Utah State. They didn't run away from the Utah State guys. If I remember that correctly, people in the chat let me know. And you're like, wait, what's going on? So I wouldn't discount when you see somebody run away from people. Now, when you see a walk-on run away from people, okay, maybe there's something weird there. But yeah, I think overall team speed looks better. It just looks like a pretty well put together team. And I think the deficiencies that were on the defensive line, where you had guys that were playing hard, like the Gavin Myers and Nate Cliftons. I mean, they did what they could, but it just didn't look like what other defensive lines look like. This one looks a lot more like that, and there's some really big bodies that are getting after it that you can rotate through, and if one guy gets hurt, you're not going to be in big of trouble in the interior of that defensive line. So yeah, I think the speed on that line looks better, but they're also bigger, and that helps too.
Yeah, I took a video of Eli Sanders when he was running the ball, and it looked like his legs were about to fall off. They were just going so fast. And I'm not saying Longstreet is the fastest guy, but I was on the sideline right there. It was right before his touchdown, and he'd just gone out of bounds. And I almost got run over. So from that angle, he looked like he was going pretty fast.
We don't want to get you involved in the play like that,
Yes.
Riley. Yeah.
I know. My friends were like, you should have just gotten hit. You'd be on Barstool Sports. I'm like, no, that's okay. I'll pass.
That's funny.
What else do we have? Question. Any chance USC and Notre Dame schedule a game in Dublin, Ireland? Would this be great?
I like watching them. And I need to talk to my friends that cover Kansas State and see what that experience was like. I think I've talked to Notre Dame guys from before, but there's a lot of people that are just like, why would you even do that? Yeah, I think Kansas State came back and kind of laid an egg when they came back to the mainland too, right? I think they didn't do very, it was they played a bad team and it was close or something like that. But
they snuck by North Dakota by 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as a media person, hell yeah, I'm covering it. I'll make Connor pay his own way. I'm I'm just gonna go. No, I'm just kidding. Riley, you could come out, but just no. But that would be a lot of fun. I don't know if there's a big benefit for the team if you're really marketing. USC is more of a national brand, and maybe there's some marketing opportunities. It'd be interesting to talk to the athletic department and see what they would say. How much of the expenses are paid by the TV, doing a week 0 game and all that. I mean, I think it would be fun. I don't know if it's beneficial for the program if you're going to I think Georgia Tech did well with it last year. They got a big win over Florida State and had a really good year. But I don't know if I've seen some national writers kind of tweet why would you even put yourself through this? It just seems like it's a lot,
And as for the USC Notre Dame game, I saw another question in the chat. It was any update? Will we hear something soon? I don't think with 100% certainty we will, but it seems like stuff is really moving in the right direction. The LA Times quoted Jen Cohen, the AD, about her wanting to schedule the game. USC really wants to put it in September, but Notre Dame maybe doesn't want it that way. The big sticking point for USC was they don't want to have to travel to South Bend during the middle of their conference slate, which makes sense. So scheduling that game earlier is what they're trying to do. But they've consistently said they don't want to be the reason the rivalry ends. There's confidence on USC's side that this is going to come together soon and that they'll be able to get it done. So hopefully there is something soon. I don't know how soon, but I think the wheels are in motion and good stuff's happening with that. So that's good.
And it does, I do love tradition, and I've always thought it was cool, even when I was a student, that USC plays Notre Dame in the Coliseum in October, and they would move a section of the fan. I don't know if they still do this because the Coliseum's been remodeled, but some of the bigger donors would get their seats moved so Notre Dame people could get there. When USC would go to Notre Dame Stadium, same thing. Some USC fans would get better seats than they normally would. They'd move some Notre Dame fans over. I don't know. Notre Dame wouldn't bring out their band, but the Sherman Oaks, Notre Dame High School would bring their band out sometimes or whatever. But there were just some cool traditions. But USC would go to South Bend in October, and then Notre Dame would come here in November. Yeah. So it was cold there, but USC wouldn't have to go when it was too cold, and here they could come out when it's colder there. It was just sort of this long-standing thing. But now that USC's in the Big Ten, and after traveling all those trips last year, you're I get it. Hey, we don't need another October trip to fly into Chicago or wherever they fly, South Bend or whatever. Let's do that one in September, and that makes more sense to me. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what I'm pretty confident too. They'll get something done. It's the right thing to do to get something done, but it's more negotiations. Hey, figure out.
And especially now that the SEC is playing 9 and an additional Power 4 team, that helps.
That might help Notre Dame get maybe more SEC teams would pick them up, because they need to pick up an extra Power 4 or Notre Dame type of team. But I think it's tougher with really no independents left, and even the service academies are in conferences and stuff. So I think Notre Dame certainly needs USC more than USC knows Notre Dame. They could have a really good schedule just with their Big Ten and then picking somebody else or whatever that's not on the other side of the country. They could do a Cal or Stanford again, and you get another Power 4 team, but that's not the tradition. We did lose the tradition of Cal and Stanford too, but the Notre Dame tradition is a big one, so I think they want to keep it, but probably just have it early in the season.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. Forward Dog is checking in on Jakeem Stewart. Question: do you think Thanos will be back next week?
Good
Hopefully.
Question. We got a picture of him if you want.
The coaching staff, Riley keeps saying, yes, Lincoln Riley, but he was still in a boot yesterday, so hopefully it's not too long. Do we have a call?
We do have a call.
A call, thank you.
So this looks like Antonio calling from Fresno. I used to go up there a lot, so let's bring him in. Antonio,
hey guys,
is the show. How you doing, man?
How you guys doing? Oh, not too bad, not too bad. It's I think it's still in the triple digits up here, so it's still a little warm. Just got back last night from the drive. Was at the game yesterday, so I just want to say I've been listening and watching a lot of the videos that you guys put up for about 12 years. I haven't called in yet, so this is my first time. So I appreciate everything that you guys do, and I've been a VIP subscriber for the last about 3 years, and it's well worth it with the ghost notes and the war room. So anybody out there that maybe is on the fence, it's 1,000% worth it, especially if you get in on one of those percentage off for the year. But my question for you guys is just about media availability. Over the last 15 years, we've kind of seen a shift away from more open practices, and I think UCLA is a big example of that, where they were really closed off, a lot more closed off than I was anticipating, and I know David Woods has some comments about that. And I think that the struggles on the field are really prevalent last night. I was just listening to the game on the drive home, but I was just curious how it is around the country. Is it very similar to how it is here in LA with the two LA schools? And I was just curious how you think it's going to continue on. Do you think it's beneficial for these conferences to kind of force in a clause maybe to force, some more media availability to, for promotion and stuff like that for the teams and players? Thanks, guys.
Hey, really good call. Thank you so much, and thanks for all the props. We didn't ask him to do that.
You didn't hire him, Ryan?
Didn't hire him. That was amazing. Appreciate that. It's changed a lot over the years, and it's funny. I did cover Fresno State for a little bit, where he's up from the Fresno area. And when you have a big media market, and I'll kind of get into some of that stuff real quick, but I went up to Fresno and was part of Rivals at the time, and like instantly just day one covering it, like the local TV station was like, hey, do you want to come on and talk about the team? Like they're just looking for, there's places that are just, hey, we want coverage, If you're in a small market in a place like, say Lincoln, Nebraska, like my old buddy Sean Callahan, who was the Rivals, they're with On 3 now, but he was the Rivals Nebraska guy when I was the USC Rivals guy. And he would do radio and TV stations across the state. And I was struggling. The reason I started the podcast and these shows is because local media wouldn't have me on because they're covering the Lakers and the Dodgers and all that stuff. So if you get a market that's solely on this football program, you can, as a media person, you can kind of do whatever you want. But the program itself can give you almost no access, and it doesn't matter because you're going to cover them anyway because that's the only game in town. In a place like LA, I've always said, and Pete Carroll was the most open that I've seen anybody. And USC is still pretty open, I think, compared to others, but it's a lot more closed off than they were before. I think you need to be more open because there's so many other games in town. And I think it was a rookie mistake. And I'm not even blaming Deshaun Foster for shutting things down. They had reporters drive down to Costa Mesa, and when they got there, they realized they couldn't do anything. And they were like, what are you doing here? I think that's the people around him, the athletic department and sports information have to be like, we can't do this. And I think even when Lincoln Riley came in, he was known when he was in Oklahoma and Norman, they were really closed off, and it was tough. I talked to counterparts there. It was tougher to get content and cover the team. And when he got to LA, to the point of Connor's change, I think the people there, I know sports information and the athletic department talked to him look, you can't do that in LA. You need to generate more opportunities to showcase your program. So I think he looks as the media more of a partner now than he probably did in Oklahoma. And I think that's developed. I think Ed Orgeron did the same thing when he became the head coach at Ole Miss. Even though he learned under Pete Carroll, he started closing things off and kind of realized that I don't need to be adversarial with the media. We can have a better relationship. So I think that we get good enough access that we can cover the team well and get a lot. We can talk to players a lot, which I think is the most important thing. It would be nice to be able to watch more practice, even having caveats that, hey, you can't say this, and I think that's worked well. So I'm a little disappointed that we can't watch any of the practices now, even just the stretching parts. But in general, I think USC is pretty good as across the country. It used to be the best. It's not anymore. But I think in a big media market, you sort of have to be more open, and whenever you've tried to close things off, it's never worked. I think Kiffin tried for a little bit, had to shut that down. I think Sark did too, had to reverse the decision. It's just really hard because you can be forgotten quickly. Where if you're in a market if you're in Norman, you have to cover the team no matter what. If you're in Lincoln, that's it. Tallahassee, boom. What are you covering else? So I think there's different advantages and disadvantages. And the other thing with NIL, players want to be able to showcase themselves. So if you never allow them to speak, I think that's you're doing them a disservice. So players can go out on their own and speak to the media too, which is different because they can, if someone's offering money or whatever to go on a show or promote something. Before, sports information departments were like, no, you can't talk, but you can't stop them from making money. So it's a little bit different era. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know what you think.
I know Oregon is more restrictive in their media stuff. I think Florida State is more restrictive. UCLA, as we've seen, is more restrictive. I can't come up with an example because I just don't know about who still holds open practices. Maybe there will be 1 or 2 like we had with USC in a given camp.
I think ASU has been pretty, like Teddy Dillingham came in and they've been more open. So there's definitely places that have opened up a little more. I'd like to see but USC decent,
Well, I mean, the fact that we can't watch any practice
during
the season
I don't like
sucks.
that,
but it is still better than some of these other programs. And the nice benefit is that Chris and I can go out and see all the guys come out from the tunnel and walk onto the field when they get the new facility. If Lincoln Riley really wants to close it down, like seeing all the guys come out is maybe one of the most helpful things that we have. Like that's how I was able to talk about Bear Alexander redshirting. He didn't come out to practice after he kind of quit on the team. It was like, hey, let me put in a couple calls, see if this is an injury or what, and he ended up just quitting. So that is a really helpful tool for us, and I don't know if that's going to continue to be there once this new facility comes up. So that, I think, would be to the fans' detriment, but I know a lot of people are like, who cares how much access they get.
Yeah. Sorry, Antonio, if you were – I thought he went off, and I muted and then ended up dropping him, but he might have still been on the line, so my apologies.
Call us back.
If he wanted to, like, talk more, I'm sorry. It sounded like he just took off.
And thank you for the kind words, too.
That was a great call,
Means a lot.
Yeah, that was a great call. A couple of people in the chat asking about number 55.
Oh, the number? I'll defer to you, Ryan. What do you think?
Who did I ask? I forget. I asked somebody, like, does this matter? And
I mean, of course it matters.
but it was like a current player. See, this is old. You forget stuff, and they're just like, yeah, it doesn't really matter that much. Like, it's not as important to the players. I think it's important for the fans and everything, but for the people I talked to, it didn't sound like this was like players are like
clamoring for it.
Yes, like, oh my God, can I get the 55? Like, I don't think that's happening. So it's got to be more. It's going to come from the adults. It's going to come from coaches that are like, oh, there's this 5-star linebacker recruit, and they'll make a big deal out of it. So I think that can happen, but it's not. It doesn't seem like it's important inside the locker room that it is maybe outside.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Antonio. Antonio, for that call, and everybody in the chat. Love the questions. Love the comments about Ryan's analogies. You got enough praise. I feel like decent amount. Keep them coming. Maybe we can do a hierarchy of your top 3.
It's not forced. That's
I know.
literally how
well, that's the best
communicate.
part.
Like, I don't know if it's just growing up, or like just being engineers, like this problem-solving thing, and you're just trying. Like when I think of explaining something, like it's like to me, it's like there's a problem. Like I'm trying to solve it, and like how do I do that? And it's like, oh, I can use it. I use analogies quite a bit. But sometimes people will, you've seen people get in trouble using an analogy because they're like, you said something, you're making something analogous to something that's very bad. You're like, you're calling that person bad. Like, no, I'm like, whatever. This person made garden, had a garden, and this person is same, whatever. You're trying to make some comparison. It's not. This person is what you're using in the analogy. So you can kind of get in trouble a little bit. But I don't know. I just always communicated that way.
No, the one about the DEA coming to help the kids, that made a lot of sense. The kids are helpless. The players were helpless at USC.
Was I saying USC was selling meth? No. That
clicked for me. So
okay, good.
Nice job.
All right.
They may be obscure, but they work. I'll give you that.
And they literally just make them up. The parking ticket one I've used a bunch of times.
Yes, that is a Ryan classic.
But sometimes I'll just think of something and it's just like, oh, I think that works. And, it doesn't always work, but I do my best. We are literally got to say a whole lot of words in a row, just talking. And I say too many of them, probably.
At first, I'm like, where is he going with this? And then you start adding things, and I get a little more concerned, and I was like, I'm totally lost, and then it all clicks.
It works out, though.
This makes me, shout out to Keely, R.I.P. No, she's around. We love Keely, but she's not part of the show anymore. We have to get her on sometime. But she would do the same way, Riley. She would like, where's Ryan going with this? She's like, the mute. She's like, it's the mute. She's ready with the mute button or something. Like she really tried to make sure I wouldn't get in trouble. So I thank you for having those same kind of vibes that you feels for like, oh, what's Ryan going to say here?
All right. Anything else before we wrap up? I'm going to give the viewers a nice overhead shot of all of us.
Oh yes.
Hello. Waving in.
This is the studio. I have a new monitor there that I'm trying to put a new computer in, so we'll get
this thing right here.
A little faster. Yeah, it's not working yet, so we'll get that going. But no, it was great. It was great to be back. Riley killed it.
Yeah, great job, Riley.
I gave her the overview, and she.
Can I applaud myself?
Yeah, of course you can applaud yourself. You run the show. Like you do whatever. You can mute us. You can give us applause. Give yourself applause. Yeah. And thanks to everyone for, joining us if you're on Facebook or YouTube, or if you're watching the replays later. Being live is awesome. It's great to interact with all of you, and I'll put it up as a podcast as well, even though it's this is intended for video format, but if you're listening on the podcast, that's great as well. But make sure you get to uscfootball.com. So much content over the last 48, 96 hours. We just put up so much stuff. It's
not stopping anytime soon. We got 11 more games.
Yeah, so much. But it's just you couldn't. I don't think you could consume it all. If you want to sign up, 75% off is super cheap anyway. We'll put up more stuff than you can read. Or
I try to, and I'm like, this is a full-time job.
Yeah, literally. We all can't read. I can't read everything that goes up on my site anymore.
How does Shotgun do it? Shotgun edits everything.
It's so it's so much. But thank you to everyone out there, and Riley, especially for the 30-year shot. I can't believe it's been that long. But,
Yay!
Hopefully, it's a good year. I'm never trying to.
Are you switching your prediction after?
There's your own applause.
Ooh. No, I don't think I could switch this early.
Yeah.
I think 8-4, but I feel the upside of 9-3 or even 10-2 is legit. I feel I feel more confident that could happen, and definitely more confident that the over, the 7.5 game over is going to hit. Yeah, maybe there's some bad injuries and things like that, but I feel a lot better about that. Just I just got good vibes from it. You're not going to take away a ton, but I feel like all those good decisions in the offseason are probably going to pay off in some ways.
I'm not quite there yet, but I definitely get what you're saying.
Cool.
So we'll see.
I will say Connor and I are 1-0 for the spread.
Yes.
You guys did it.
Yes, nice pick.
I mean, I didn't. It was a terrible pick. I was bad at the Big Ten. It's hard the early season Big Ten, especially the big ones. But I thought 45-10. You feel pretty good about that. You blew a team out or whatever, and certainly didn't expect.
I had him 49-7. I didn't expect.
Yeah, I don't think
73-30.
anyone
I
was
thought
expecting that
49-7
much.
was
Yeah, 73 points. I mean, it was just okay, you're looking for ways how's this team going to cover. Okay, pick sixes are very bad for a bad team covering when the good team gets a pick six. And then when the all backups are in and they just march down the field and score, holy crap. You can't start the backups. Okay, this is not going to go well. But yeah, it was fun.
Next game, 4:30 on Saturday.
Yes.
Georgia Southern.
We'll be back Tunnel Vision on Thursday, previewing, and then again Sunday night. We'll get Riley here.
I'll be back.
Yes.
Part 2. I know, it's official. Season started.
You got your Thursday classes, right?
Yes.
So if you're ever going to miss one or something, you're welcome to come
let
in
us know.
and do it.
Luckily, I enjoyed the class, so that's good. But
Okay,
no,
good.
sorry, can't be here on Thursday. Thanks to everybody in the comments. Thank you, Sid. That's a very nice comment. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Great
Very
game.
cool. Yes. I'm sure he would.
Thank you. All right, this was fun. It's good to be back.
Yes.
Here we are again. Like you said, Ryan, full week of coverage, another week of coverage, nonstop. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for our caller. If you can't this week, next week, call in. We want to hear from you, so keep it coming. Anything else, guys?
Nope. That sounds
Signing
good.
off.
Great sign off. Yeah. See you next time.
All right. Bye, everyone.